Let's return to the latest developments in relations between North Korea and the US ahead of the big planned summit next month. Pyongyang is now threatening to pull out of the meeting over Washington's demands for denuclearisation. Robert Kelly is an American political analyst on inter-Korean affairs. He joins us now from South Korea. Robert, it feels as if I know you already, but thank you very much for joining us on News Breakfast. So what do you make of these tough words from North Korea? Is it purely sabre-rattling or is it much more serious?
No, I think the North Koreans are upset at the way that the summit is being framed, broadly speaking, by the White House and in the global media. That is to say that the North Koreans see this as a meeting of equals. They see their leader and Donald Trump sitting down, shaking hands, getting photographed together as sort of peer-to-peer. But that's not really how it's being broadcast, certainly from the White House, right, where there's been a sort of triumphalism about it. And I think that's what's going on. I think the Kims are trying to reframe the way this is being understood. They're not coming to surrender. They're coming to deal.
Would they be prepared to go to the ultimate step, Robert, of pulling out of the presidential summit altogether?
I think that's unlikely. I think both sides actually really want this thing. I think Donald Trump wants it for, he likes TV, he likes the attention, likes the theatricality and the flair of it. I think it also helps distract from all the scandals and whatnot that he faces at home. I think the president wants this very much. He's been quite excited for it. I think the Kim family, the North Korean leadership, I think they want this also because it helps to legitimate North Korea when you actually see the North Korean leader shaking hands with the American president. The North Koreans have wanted a meeting with an American president for many years because of this. I would be very surprised if they walk out. If they did, it would really sort of convince hawks everywhere that North Korea can never be trusted. It's
clear Pyongyang, Robert, has an issue with Donald Trump. It has an even bigger issue with John Bolton, the president's national security advisor, the very hawkish national security advisor, who's been saying some very strong things about North Korea. Would you see the US administration perhaps pulling him out of those negotiations?
Yeah, and that's already begun to happen, right? The White House is already starting to walk back Bolton's role in this, and that's probably wise if they really want this thing to take off, right? I mean, there is a lot of sort of concern out there that John Bolton is actually hoping this thing will fail because, of course, Advisor Bolton is on the record in the past many times saying the United States should strike North Korea. If the talks fail, then Bolton can say, hey, look, we tried talking, now we should hit them. I think that's sort of maybe what the North Koreans are thinking as well. But yes, the White House is walking this back because, if they're going to have the summit, it can't look like it's it's a precursor to a war.
How seriously committed, based on your extensive analysis, Robert, is North Korea to denuclearisation?
I think it's highly unlikely the North Koreans will go to zero. I think it's likely that the North Koreans will give us some information about the program they have, perhaps a missile count. They might give up some of the ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles that can strike the United States. But I would be surprised if they go to zero. In fact, I don't really think there's any analysis out there from anybody, even sort of on the left, suggesting that the North Koreans are going to give up everything. They'll probably keep something.
And the Americans and the international community, I guess, realistic enough to believe that is going to be the case?
Yeah, I think most people who do what I do think that the North Koreans aren't going to go to zero. I'm actually a little bit surprised that the Trump administration has been talking this up so much. I mean, Secretary Pompeo has said this a couple times on TV, and it's great. I mean, obviously, I'd love the North Koreans to go to zero. I'm sure that'd be awesome, but I don't think anybody really expects it. And I think this is one of the reasons why the North Koreans sort of counterpunched yesterday, right? Because the Trump people are sort of building up this expectation that we really are on the verge of thorough disarmament, and we're probably not.
All going well, Robert Kelly, the summit in Singapore does take place next month. What are the next steps after that?
After the summit, yeah, I think everybody right now is focused on making sure that it's actually a success, given Trump's sort of zany character. After that comes the staff work, to be honest. That is to say, you have to get the Militech guys and the engineers and the lawyers and the bureaucrats to come and actually start working out the details so that there's a series of steps, a set of sequences that both sides are going to follow so that this deal doesn't fall apart in the way the previous ones have in the past. The big sticking point in my mind will be inspectors. The West is just not going to trust North Korea unless we can get some people in there.
Robert Kelly, probably the world's best-known den in South Korea, thank you very much for joining us on Breakfast this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.